Halo? No, widzę pustą salę, jakaś pani idzie. No. Mhm. Tak. Wyłączyć mikrofon? A jak długo to będzie trwało? O jest. A mogę tak, nazwijmy to jakoś szybko żeby potem się odpuścić? Dobra, to bo ja wiesz, tak no w 5 minut tam bym powiedział co i jak, bo tutaj no mam już parę jeszcze rzeczy, nie? A już 16:26, bo tak się na 16 uszykowałem, nie? A. Dobra, dzięki, na razie.
Hello.
We are starting in a minute. Thank you for your patience.
Hello.
Hello, good evening. My name is Michael Specjalski from the Pantarey Foundation. Thank you all for getting on our seminar, New Forms of Censorship of the New Media. Today discussion we're going to have with some cases from Poland regarding censorship of investigating journalists, also publishers, and also we're going to have a voice from the other side, so the retired major of Polish security agency. And we'd like to speak about the media freedom, but also wider communication freedom, communication freedom between citizens in the framework of some threats that we have. Regarding the threats of the disinformation, misinformation, and this kind of issues that we also heard today on the plenary session. So I would like to present our speakers today. On my right is Christian Seitz, director of Vienna Bund. That is here. But we also have speakers from Zoom online from Poland, and the speakers are Leszek Szymowski, investigating journalist from Poland. We have publisher Tomasz Zomer, and we have Major Łatuszyński, so the major from the Interior Security Agency of Poland. I'm gonna present. I'm gonna make a kind of introduction, and then we're gonna go to the speakers, and we have discussions with the speakers. Okay. Okay, so the agenda of this discussion shortly is legal threats in Poland regarding these issues. Of course, we like to discuss with you with the threats that are also in other countries. So hopefully that we're going to have some discussion after in the end. I'm going to present the legal framework threats that are now in Poland, and then we're going to move to first of all Tomasz Zomer, different that it's in the agenda, then to Leszek Szymowski, and then to our expert from the security service, Jaromir Łatuszyński. And our discussion we're gonna finish with discussion that's gonna be run by Christian Seitz. He also gonna speak more about what is happening also in Austria. So we're gonna show the Austrian case also. So the legal threats in Poland, there are few of them. This is Stanisław Żaryn. He's a spokesman of the basically security service here in Poland, and he speaks from the government of some political propositions that the Polish government, because of the war on Ukraine, like to introduce to the legislative. And I'm gonna read a statement about what kind of legal initiative we have from Stanisław Żaryn and from this Law and Justice government, that we think that are also a threat for media freedom, and they are not fulfilling the goal of those legal bills that they would like to introduce to fight the disinformation. So there's new introduction of a new law in Poland. It's called the Electronic Communication Law, and that is helping. That is, the goal of this law is changing a lot of legal issues regarding this. But there are some in this law in Poland. There are some threats that we like to bring up on the OSCE conference. The first of all is that police and 8 secret service, like Interior Supervision Office, Border Guard, State Provisional Service, Internal Security Agency, Military Counter-Intelligence Security Service, Military Police, Central Anti-Corruption Bureau, National Revenue Administration, gonna have, after this legislation gonna be passed, they're gonna have a full insight in real time into everything that was sent via internet instant messaging. So like Messenger, WhatsApp, smartphones, without a judicial control. The Law and Justice Party wants to have unlimited insight into our content, what you are sending in real time, by forcing the big tech and also telecommunication providers to give the information to the police and to other services that I mentioned without the judicial control, like to emphasize. The law is changing also some things, like the first few channels in every media platform in Poland gonna be the state channels. On the 13th January 2023, the law was introduced to the parliament, and was basically the first level of the parliament by the Law and Justice and the Solidarity Parliament, accept this law, and now the law went to the upper chamber, and now it's going also further to the president. On the 6th of March, so a week ago, there was a quite big protest of 200 citizens and NGOs from different affiliations, from left and right and center, with more technical questions, but also some security questions that gathered on the public hearing and was criticizing this the new law. The mechanism that are introducing to this law. So the first mechanism that I said, that the security service and police gonna have access in real time without the judicial control to our content, what we are sending. This is the one threat. And the second threat is that also those kind of services gonna have possibility to cancel telecommunication on a specific region of our territory. So if, for instance, or specific person, so without the judicial control. So if on some pretext in some region of Poland, those services that I mentioned could cancel telecommunication. So even if you have a kind of VPNs or this kind of software, you're not going to have access. You're gonna have a possibility to send this kind of communication by messengers, and this is sending by messengers was also on last Warsaw Human Warsaw Human Dimension Conference in Warsaw last October and November, there was a side event run by the Office of Representative on Freedom of Media of OSCE about encryption, protection journalism. So that's why we are saying that this controlling of communication platforms, but also telecommunication infrastructure without the judicial control, like to stress on, it's in the framework of the worries of the OSCE and the European institutions regarding mostly authoritarian states and some totalitarian even states, because what we can see in Poland, that we have this narrative from the security service officials that it's close to this state of emergency, that because we have a war on Ukraine, because Poland supports Ukraine, must fight disinformation. So because of this kind of narrative, we can see that the government is trying to push this kind of legal acts that are going to limit not only journalists' media freedom, but also communication between citizens, direct communication. The person that I would like to I'm going to show you once more. So Mr. Żaryn, yes, I think I'm showing you. So okay, Mr. Żaryn said on the few days ago that the government is thinking about introducing criminalization for disinformation. So the government would like to introduce a new law into criminal code that's going to criminalize so-called disinformation. Of course, we don't know the precise details about it, but there is this ideas of doing this in Poland. So this is the facts that are run now in Poland. This is the legal act, and in Poland, some of the minority NGOs, some NGOs and some of civil society is protesting, and it's comparing this legal framework that the government was like to introduce to the ACTA that was a few years ago criticized in the whole Europe. So, to generalize, what I would like to say is the bill and the legal acts are controlling email and messenger content control without judicial review in real time. They get location data processing without judicial review, and the disabling telecommunication without judicial review. And also, like I said, there is we don't have a document for now, because those things that I said are already in the parliament. But the government, by the spokesman of the security service, is saying that they're gonna also introduce the disinformation criminal code legal framework. They're going to change the criminal code to these cases. So we're going to start discussion, and we're going to show you some more specific perspective from different sides. We're going to start with first of all Tomasz Sommer. Tomasz Sommer is a publisher from Najwyższy Czas. This weekly magazine is like for I think 20 years now in Poland, and they also have their own website, which was blocked by the security agency without any information about it, without any administrative decision about it. And one of the providers only said that that this was the Interior Agency, and that's why it was known by the publisher. But I'm going to take the floor from the Tomasz Sommer. So, Tomasz, if you can join us, and could you present your case as a publisher of media in Poland?
Hello, nice to meet you. Thank you very much for your invitation for this meeting. First of all, my magazine is in print not for 20 but for 33 years. It is the second oldest magazine which was registered in Poland just after the fall of the communism in 19 1989, and since then we are issuing our magazine without any stops. And of course, since I think 1998 or 1997, we have internet version. So it is also one of the oldest Polish internet version of print magazine, maybe in the first 5 oldest internet edition in Poland. And a month ago, almost, we were cut off from Polish providers out of nothing. We were not informed about any action taken against us, but very soon we realized that the culprit was ABW, security agency, which without any law is making such a things for several different homepages. And we know that this is this security agency involved in this case, because one of the providers informed us directly that they cut us off on the order of this agency. So they are working secretly, but unfortunately for them, those subjects which are used to cut us off are not so secret, and we have proofs that this is the action of this security agency. So we started to review our law position, and very soon we realized that this action is completely unlawful. And we have even one verdict now in the case of a similar homepage from lowest administrative court in Warsaw, which in its verdict said that the action of this agency is completely unlawful. Now they can appeal this because this verdict was issued 3 weeks ago, and they have 1 month to appeal this verdict. The court ordered to switch on this homepage, which was in this proceeding, but this agency, as for now, didn't do this, so probably they want to appeal. I think, of course, it will take another half a year or more to finish this case in higher administrative court in Warsaw. So probably in half a year we will see what is the result of this proceeding in Polish courts. But anyway, Polish constitution prohibits directly the preventive censorship, so it's quite obvious that this kind of action is completely unlawful. But anyway, the ABW agency is proceeding in this kind of action, and they are not even informing what is the objection on those homepages which are contested in their action. So, for example, we are producing in this homepage about 100 news per day, and we are not sure what kind of news is the subject of persecution, because it's not a subject of persecution. They just cut off us from our local providers, so our readership shrinked by about 40%. Of course, it is very easy to overcome this problem just by changing the DNS recognition system. It's not very complicated action, so it's complete nonsense to act like that. Actually, it makes bigger financial problem than a problem with the access, because everyone who wants only to achieve the access is possible to do this. But of course, we are basing our action on income from the advertising, and in case of this kind of cutting off, we are losing income from this advertising, and as I said, it is now on the level of 40% of our income, so it's substantial loss, and probably we are going in near future to change our domain to avoid this kind of blockade, because otherwise we will just have enormous loss in our income.
Thank you, Tomasz. Okay, so now, of course, we're going to have some questions further to what you said. So please turn your microphone, and we're going to now shift to Leszek Szymowski, who is investigating journalists in Poland, and also have some personal problems with the government because he's a victim of the Smercam campaign for I think from Friday in Poland. But he also was writing books about the highest officials in Poland, like the Minister Ziobro, the Justice Minister in Poland. He wrote a critical book, and he also had some problems. He won a case with Minister Ziobro in the court, and also he was publicly criticizing, for instance, Prime Minister Morawiecki of his. But I'm not going to take his what he's going to say. So Leszek, please join us and present your case and also not only your case, but show the investigation journalists how it's in Poland and how it's changing. Could you give some insight in it? Thank you.
Well, you didn't mention that I am one of the author of the Najwyższy Czas weekly magazine, and I am almost sure that the situation that happened to Najwyższy Czas, that Tomasz Sommer talked about it a moment ago, has something in common with me, because more than 2 months ago, I disclosed the information that I researched in the archives of Stasi, the former intelligence service of Eastern Germany. I published the information after the research in the archives of this secret services, that the Polish Prime Minister, Mr. Morawiecki, was 2 times registered as a source of information. More than 1 month ago, I made also a reportage about the secret of the careers of Polish Prime Minister Morawiecki. I disclosed the information that he was committed in the bank scandal at the bank when he worked before he became a prime minister. That he was a Don Juan, and he made when he was in relations with many women, also working at this bank. One of them became the mother of his child. And then when he became a prime minister, he ordered the secret services to guard this mother and this child in the other country. And I published many information that are not positive for Prime Minister Morawiecki. And 3 days after the day when Polish secret services closed up the internet portal of Najwyższy Czas, I had a meeting with my source of information in the Agency of Internal Security, and the guy told me directly, listen, this is the results of your investigations. We closed we closed the portal up because of your information published about Prime Minister. In my opinion, this is a crime because the Polish Prime Minister abused his power to make a private revenge on a journalist who published the information that he didn't want to be disclosed. Yes, I am an investigative journalist since 17 years, and in this period, I felt many times that the Polish governments are not happy that the investigative journalism really exists in Poland, yes? And the political system found three tools to make investigative journalists quiet, to close their mouth and to disturb them at work. What are these tools? So first tool, that's a secret agent, secret services, because among journalists, there are many secret collaborators of secret services. In 2007, I saw the top secret list of the journalists who are registered at the base of Polish secret services, and mostly of them work until now. And when I now look at them, knowing that they are the collaborators of secret services, I understand what they say, and I know why do they say what they say. Yes, they are not independent; they are dependent on the officers of secret service. The second tool, this is the prosecutors and courts, because both courts and prosecutors' offices are completely dependent on the Polish justice minister and the law, with not many exceptions, yes? And the law in Poland allows the journalist to be sentenced to jail when he publishes the information that are not comfortable to the government. We have the article in our penal code, number 212, that allows to put the journalist to the court and then to even to send him to jail. Of course, the cases that the journalist was sentenced to prison took place maybe 2, maybe 3 times in the last 30 years, yes? And the third tool, and this is really horrible, this is the system of financing of media. Of course, it's obvious that if you are an owner of newspaper, you need to have advertisements to have money. And of course, it's not how it works in the whole world, and it's nothing strange. But the element of the system that I'm talking about is that the state-owned company buy advertisements in the newspapers, and then they expect from the editor-in-chiefs, from the editors, to write what the advertiser wants. That means to write what the government wants, yes? And many last years we had many cases that, for example, the newspapers that now are the elements of the Polish apparatus of propaganda, they publish the advertisements of tanks, of submarines, military submarines, and so on. Of course, it's not possible that an average reader of a newspaper in Poland will think one day, oh, what shall I buy today? Maybe I will buy a tank. Maybe I will buy a military submarine, yes? So what's the point of publishing such the advertises? Only to send money from state-owned company to the press and to buy their loyalty. I am the person that publicly says since many years that this procedure shall be punished and illegal.
Thank you, Leszek, for your insight as an investigating journalist in Poland. So now we're gonna, of course, hopefully we're gonna have some questions from the audience from you, but we're gonna go now for to Mr. To the other side. So the former retired major of the security agency that is threatening Tomasz now and Leszek, Mr. Jaromir Łatuszyński, who is a retired major and terrorist expert. He was the director for anti-terrorism bureau in Poland, and had a lot of medals from the president and from the security service. But when he started to say that there are some misdoings in the security agency, he started to have some problems. He started to sue the security agency and won a lot of cases against the security agency. So he's an expert in anti-terrorism, and he's gonna show maybe from the security service perspective what's the other side maybe, or what's the balance between the freedom of media and what's happening in Poland, and how maybe security service in Poland, but also other countries, are misusing this kind of a new legislative for the traditional media, but also for the new media. I'm gonna be also a translator because we like to be, because of the work he's done. So he's gonna speak Polish and I'm gonna speak English because he's an officer of the interagency. So we like to be strict, not to make any mistakes. Okay. So, Mr. Jaromir, could you join our discussion? You have problems with the microphone? Hopefully it's not as Polish security agency that is trying to, you know, trying to act something here. So okay. So anyway, so we must keep we're gonna try to help Mr. Jaromir, and we're gonna have now Christian Seitz on the floor here to comment what he already heard from the speakers, but also present how it's in Austria, because as we spoke, there is a new law also introduced in Austria that is quite similar, maybe as maybe it's different. So because of those technical details, of course, maybe not because of the security agency, but Christian, I'm gonna give you a floor and I'm gonna try to help Jaromir to join us and to talk his insight, because it's crucial.
Thank you, Michael. My name is Christian Seitz. I'm scientific director of the Institute of Applied Political Economy in Austria, and I'm here today on behalf of the Viennese Academic Association. It's a traditional conservative liberal organization which is existing more than 70 years, and which is caring also for practical and factical freedom in our country. I think that the things we heard are not restricted on the borders of Poland. We have in the middle of Europe, and I think everywhere in Europe, similar problems with freedom of speech, with freedom of media, and with the possibility to express positions which are not streamlined and which are not accorded with the agenda the government is proceeding. In Austria, there we have a situation at the moment where the government is going much more larger. So they are realizing an act which will enable the government to instrumentalize some modalities to do away with very important fundaments of the liberal constitution of our country. And this is a result, I think, and the development which is very continuously forcing the situation after the so-called COVID crisis, in which we had a special situation. Everything what government did within this period was legitimated by the alarm and emergency situation of the country and of the world in this time. And now we have a proposal. It's not just a proposal. It's had been brought in by the government to the Austrian Parliament. It's discussed now very strong in Austria, and it will be brought to decision in the spring of this year. So we are ultimately some weeks or maybe some months for the situation that this law will come into reality. And I will give you the statement of the Viennese Academic Association with respect to this draft. The Federal Crisis Security Act is indeed intended to increase the country's security and resilience in the face of new and uncertain threat scenarios. The goal is to establish structures and define operational processes that will enable efficient forms of crisis management in the event of the threat. To this end, new bodies are being created, authoritative powers are being established, scope is being created for the implementation of state emergency measures, restrictions on power are being reduced or even eliminated, and fundamental rights can be restricted or even eliminated by administrative measures. The system of power sharing, statehood, with democratic control provided for the federal constitution threatens to be undermined on the basis of this approach. According to paragraph 3, the determination of a crisis is incumbent upon the federal government within the framework of an ordinance in consultation with the main committee of the National Council. However, this process is in fact initiated by the coordination body provided for in paragraph 9, which is located in the Federal Chancellery and headed by an advisor to the Federal Chancellor installed for 5 years. Section 9 is also the central source for the opening of existent arbitrariness in the definition of the trigger mechanism of the envisaged measures. Indeed, it speaks not only of the existence of a crisis, but also of an imminent crisis that would justify authoritative coordination of operational measures. Literally, there is talk of measures to minimize the danger of the emergence of an imminent crisis, which should also be accompanied by appropriate public relation work. The double subjunctive of the danger of an imminent crisis, of course, always and everywhere makes it possible to assert the need to put the publics into crisis mode and thus be justified in transforming the constitutional structure into a crisis command structure. This becomes possible and is enforceable with the mere assertion of the danger of an emergence of an imminent crisis. Paragraphs 9 and 6. The central flaw of the proposed legislation is the complete lack of a legal definition of the term crisis. What constitutes a crisis is determined by the Federal Situation Center established under paragraph 6 and 8 at the Federal Ministry of Interior. In this regard, paragraph 7 makes it clear how broadly the concept of a possible crisis is defined here. The expert committees to be set up at the Federal Ministry of the Interior define a framework that declares all areas of life and politics to be source of a possible crisis. Social affairs, health, consumer protection, climate protection, the environment, energy, mobility, innovation, technology, labor, and the economy. In this conception of the draft law criticized here, the assertion of a crisis, an impending crisis, or even the possibility of an impending crisis, has far-reaching consequences. In amendment of the federal constitutional law, the possibility of an assistant deployment of the federal armed forces is opened up to the federal government or its specialized ministries as soon as a crisis is claimed in one of the above-mentioned fields of life or politics. This danger is also reinforced by the possibility of the Ministry for Interior to override the basic data protection regulation in cases of crisis, paragraph 5. The present draft law is not suitable for solving real problems. Its adoption would create problems instead of addressing them. It is an application of the fear that an illiberal state is not the solution to the problem, but the problem itself. I think what we should be aware is the fact that here we have an example for realize the idea of the so-called new normal. This is an application of this idea to transform a state which is based on constitution and the law freedom is transformed into a quasi-military structure in which the government is enabled to realize nearly whatever they want and to instrumentalize, it's also a part of this draft, to instrumentalize the military forces in Austria to do some executive activities against their own population. So we should be aware that we are not just fighting against the minimalization of the freedom of speech, but also against very, very dangerous and very, very substantial steps into the elimination of the basic of a free and constitutional society. Thank you.
Okay, can we have Mr. Jaromir? Are you here? You were trying to connect by. Could you speak? Can we hear you?
No teraz chyba słychać, tak?
Okay. So it's okay. So we, I don't know. Did we tweak the technical details, or did we tweak some security service here? I don't know. Okay. So, of course, it was something that could happen. Okay. So, Mr. Jaromir, we have like 12 minutes. So I don't know if you're gonna have some questions, but anyway, please give your statement as a former retired major of the Interior Agency. What is in your case, what is the balance between the freedom of media and citizens and the security of the citizens that the security service are serving them, because they are a service, yes, and not any other kind of institution. So, and you're gonna speak Polish, so please make short statements, and I'm gonna translate them simultaneously. But sorry, I'm not a translator simultaneously, so I hope it's going to be fine. Please do so.
Okej, czyli zacznę może od wyszczególnienia tego pola, gdzie tutaj się spotykamy, czyli chociażby od projektu ustawy, który ogłosił pan Żaryn w odniesieniu do jak gdyby karania za dezinformację, tak?
Okay, so we're going to start pointing out the position of Minister Żaryn, the security service spokesman, about criminalizing the so-called disinformation.
No więc tutaj od razu na starcie mamy problem, kto będzie kategoryzował, co jest dezinformacją, a co jest wiarygodną informacją, czyli kawa czy herbata, szkodzi, nie szkodzi.
Okay.
Pierwszy punkt.
So the first point is who is gonna categorize what is disinformation? Are there gonna be some like more specific details about, or is gonna be more authoritative? What is tea and what is coffee? Who is gonna judge this? What is disinformation? This is the point one.
To jest punkt pierwszy i teraz od razu mamy przełożenie na kontrolę i na system cywilnej weryfikacji działania służb, który, no to mogę wiarygodnie, może to będzie mocne stwierdzenie, ale powiedzieć, że to nie działa, ponieważ przetestowałem to.
Okay, so the second point from Major Jaromir is that the second point is how it's gonna the civil control of security service, how it's gonna work, because as Major tested this civil control, it really doesn't work in practice. It's formally, but it doesn't work in practice.
Odnosząc się do case'u tutaj wydawnictwa Najwyższy Czas, tam zdaje się zastosowany był artykuł 180 prawa telekomunikacyjnego, no to już od razu mogę stwierdzić, że prawdopodobnie zostanie wytłumaczenie użyte takie, że blokada nastąpiła z uwagi na ważny interes państwa.
Okay. Regarding case of Najwyższy Czas, so the highest time, the Tomasz Sommer publisher magazine, Major is thinking that because we don't have this decision, administrative decision, they are suing the publisher sue this security service because they don't have any legal ground of it. So they're trying to, took this through the court from this security service. But the Major is saying that they used the Article 180 of the telecommunication law in Poland. He supposed that they're using this security service, and the answer in the end is going to be that they block the domain, the well-known 20 years or more publisher domain, because of the important interest of the state.
I w tym momencie kończymy sprawę z pozycji sądu, ponieważ jest to wszystko umocowane jak gdyby w prawie. Nie ma w tym momencie żadnej możliwości weryfikacji i nie chcę być złym prorokiem, ale wydawca w tym momencie przegra. Gdzie byłby ewentualnie jakiś sposób, żeby móc sobie z tym poradzić?
Okay. So Mr. Yomer said that in this case, he knows from the security service position that mostly this kind of cases in court to lose, because the court can't really, if this is legal based, this the important interest of the state is legal based in Polish law. So regarding this, the court can't do anything about it, and it's gonna make the complaint. They're gonna drop the complaint from this publisher.
Rozwiązaniem byłoby odwołanie się do jakiejś instytucji kontrolnej, których w Polsce mamy dwie, czyli to będzie Biuro Koordynatora do Spraw Służb. Jest to instancja rządowa, czyli możemy przyjąć założenie, że będzie po linii służb, a drugim punktem jest Komisja do Spraw Służb Specjalnych.
Okay, so the other possibility to counter this doings by the security service to the publisher is to contact the Bureau of the Coordination Office for the Security Service in Poland, which is a governmental institution directly under the Prime Minister office, or to the Commission for Security Service in the Parliament.
Więc w tym momencie, jeżeli te instytucje nie działają zgodnie z tymi prerogatywami, które powinny mieć, czyli jest to fikcja, no stajemy w tym momencie pod ścianą, ponieważ wracając do tego zastosowania tego przepisu, wytłumaczenia w sumie w odniesieniu z uwagi na ważny interes państwa, ten przepis będący bardzo, znaczy po prostu to jest worek, tak, do którego można wrzucić, on ma swoje racjonalne uzasadnienie w najbardziej poważnych sprawach dotyczących terroryzmu, przestępczości zorganizowanej i tak dalej. Więc problem jest w tym momencie w zastosowaniu tych...
Please continue, sorry.
Problem, kończąc ten wątek, problem jest w wykorzystywaniu i stosowaniu przepisów, które mają zupełnie inne przeznaczenie, do spraw banalnych, zupełnie nie przystających do tego przepisu, co można by podsumować w sumie jako rażące nadużycie uprawnień.
Okay, so generalize what because we don't have so much time. What Jeremy said that because those institutions, so the Bureau for Coordinating the Security Service, that's under the Prime Minister, and the Commission for the Security Service are in practice are a fictional institution that don't control. Basically, they take it as a truth. The security service stand. And they're using this Article 180, which is a kind of a baggy legal act that is you can throw there everything, and it should be used only on some really serious threats like terrorist threats or I don't know, some separatist threats like legal threats to the state, but it's used to the cases that shouldn't be used. So for attacking media that is attacking or showing some misdoings of the government. So.
Więc w tym momencie dochodzimy do takiej sytuacji, gdzie mając jak najbardziej płaszczyznę do wyjaśnień, do wyjaśnienia uzasadnienia, chociażby zostańmy przy tej blokadzie, czyli mając jak najbardziej płaszczyznę do wytłumaczenia tego uzasadnienia, ponieważ nie ma żadnych przesłanek operacyjnych, żeby chociażby panu Sommerowi nie wytłumaczyć, co było bezpośrednim powodem ogłoszenia tej blokady. Nie zakładam, że tam jakieś szyfry były zastosowane, mające uaktywnić jakieś komando terrorystyczne, więc bądźmy poważni. W tym momencie byłaby to relatywnie sprawa prosta, ponieważ gdybyśmy mieli to jak gdyby tą prostą metodykę zastosowaną, w tym momencie agencja byłaby zobowiązana do stwierdzenia ten fragment, ten artykuł z uwagi na to i na to został zablokowany. I tu zacząłby się problem, jeżeli by po prostu były złe intencje, bo trzeba by było to jakoś wytłumaczyć, tak?
So Major is saying that there should be a law that is more precise, that is categorized in what kind of situation and what kind of legal ground the agency can use those kind of instruments like that should be used on media. And he's joking that Mr. Tomasz Sommer didn't use. He hopes that Tomasz Sommer, the publisher, 20 years of publishing, didn't use some cryptography that was trying to, I don't know, contact a bomb that would be, make an explosion of some governmental institutions. So he was joking that, of course, it wasn't the case. So the wider definition of these cases is a problem, the legal framework, that this is a phase 8 of a control, and the judges and basically also some parliament commissions can't do anything about it.
Do tego jeszcze bym dołożył aspekt związany z tym, od czego zaczynałem, wspomniałem tam na początku, czyli z mobbingiem, a de facto z selekcją negatywną w służbie. Dlaczego to się łączy? Ponieważ do stosowania takich, powiedzmy, wynaturzonych metod, które nie mają nic wspólnego jak gdyby z krajem wolnym i demokratycznym, powinny być jakieś zasoby użyte, to co my w polskim języku mamy takie stwierdzenie BMW, tak, czyli bierny, mierny, ale wierny. Więc w tym momencie, jeżeli mamy system zamknięty poprzez dowolność mobbingu, niemożność wyjścia na zewnątrz w sytuacjach takich, też oprę się na tym swoim przypadku, tak, kilkanaście spraw mam wygranych w sądzie. Mam prosto położone jak gdyby paragrafy złamanego prawa. Pomimo to od 11 lat, pomimo istnienia Komisji do Spraw Służb Specjalnych, obowiązków koordynatora i tak dalej, ja od 11 lat nie byłem w stanie przebić się, żeby usiąść do stołu i mieć jak gdyby jakąś możliwość zweryfikowania tej sytuacji. No więc może przerwę to.
Okay, so it's quite long speech, but regarding the speech, the main ideas in the speech was that the problem also is mobbing in security service in Poland. That Major was a victim of it, and for 11 years he won a lot of cases against the security service, but it doesn't change the case that he's retired now officer, and he couldn't reach really any political forces in Poland that would like to change this. So and of course so mobbing and also negative selection, that there is also negative selection with the officers that are working in the agency. Okay, so Mr. Jaromir, we're going to finish in 1 minute. So if you like to finish with a big stance, it's the time that you can do it, but shortly, please.
Znaczy, mógłbym to zakończyć w taki sposób, że jeżeli robimy tutaj przełożenie funkcji i roli służb specjalnych w odniesieniu do jak gdyby funkcjonalności państwa według zasad demokratycznych, to z pozycji właśnie tutaj chociażby problematyki terroryzmu ja bym zwrócił uwagę, że zaufanie społeczne do służb to jest pierwsza bariera przeciwdziałania terroryzmowi, więc to jak gdyby może świadczy o wadze tego problemu, o tym, że to nie jest tak, że służby specjalne z założenia stoją poza jakąś bramą, powinny stać tam, gdzie trzeba, natomiast tam, gdzie jest to absolutnie bezsensowne, nie powinniśmy tworzyć właśnie takich barier, które rodzą wątpliwości i podważają zaufanie do służb.
So Major is saying that in the democratic society, of course, security service is important, and the most important thing is trust to the security service. So the lack of trust and misuse of the tools that the security service is using, not on terrorist threats, not on serious threats, but on media, or like Christian Zeitz was saying, society. It was in the pandemic and so on. This is the main threat that we must work on. Okay, thank you, Major. I think we're gonna finish in a minute. But if we're gonna have any questions to the speakers, it's the last time you could ask the question. So, okay, please do so.
Thanks a lot. I know it's late, so I don't want to keep anyone from the evening, but it would be interesting to maybe ask you for a recommendation, like what you would hope for from an organization like the OSCE, or also of the representative on freedom of the media, and maybe just a comment that if you organize a side event the next time, it would be nice to see a little bit more diverse panel and not only 5 male speakers. Just an encouragement for the next time. Thanks.
So the controversy that is we don't have women here. Yes, of course we're gonna next time we hope we're gonna cooperate with a bigger event with OSCE, and we maybe can have a half women security service retirement and half media publishers, no problem. So recommendations. So maybe we can shift to our speakers. Thomas Sommer, could you have any recommendation for the OSCE? Because we have OSCE representative from the media chair. So, Tomasz, do you would like to have some, inquiries for OSCE to help with this problem in Poland? You should put the microphone on. Is it?
Yes.
Yes.
So it's hard to say about recommendation, because this action of this Polish security agency is obviously unlawful. We are going to send a subpoena to the chief of this agency in normal libel suit, because the problem is that they are presenting us in some kind of security state problems, which are, I don't know in what way, are connected to us. So it's, let's say, some kind of very serious threat to our good name, our renown. So I think that maybe those guys from the Secret Service, when they were put in court in normal civil procedure for normal damages, they would answer what kind of action they are actually doing, because I don't understand this situation at all. But from this second part, always we have physical persons, and they are also possible to put to court.
Thank you, Tomasz. Put out your microphone, please. Okay, Mr. Major Jaromir, could you make any recommendation for OSCE institution, because we have representative from the media OSCE department here. So maybe you have a recommendation for OSCE what to do with the issues that we spoke today, what the international organization can do. put out the microphone on. Please click the microphone.
Jakie bym rekomendował rozwiązania, tak?
Jest rekomendacje, tak. Dla organizacji OBWE, co mogłaby zrobić w tym tematach, co tutaj mówimy.
Znaczy, no ja bym rekomendował to, na co zwracałem uwagę, tak? Rekomendowałbym przede wszystkim weryfikację uzasadnienia tego typu działań związanych z blokadą mediów, ponieważ jeszcze raz zwrócę uwagę, to nie są działania, które mogłyby wchodzić w zakres determinowany sprawami operacyjnymi tak zwanymi, czyli mającymi swoje uzasadnienie do zachowania określonych rzeczy w tajemnicy. W sytuacji takiej jak blokada mediów na patentach związanych z bardzo ogólnym prawem, gdzie są słowa wytrychy, czyli bezpieczeństwo i tak dalej, zagrożenie tam powiedzmy obronności, no to są rzeczy, które w prosty sposób w odniesieniu do tego, że mamy materiał na stole, tak, czyli mamy określone publikacje, możemy wziąć, rzecznik Żarem może wziąć flamaster, zaznaczyć te fragmenty i w tym momencie jak gdyby wydawca ma możliwość obrony tego, na pewno przed sądem, ale też wydaje mi się, że z uwagi na określone rzeczy, czyli na te wybiegi, które mogą być stosowane, chociażby to, co wskazywałem, ten przepis, który jest wytrychem kasującym wszystko, czyli powód z uwagi na ważny interes państwa, w tym momencie nie miałoby to zastosowania, tak? Sprowadzamy wtedy problem na ziemię, czyli separujemy te wszystkie uprawnienia, które związane są z poważnymi tematami, z terroryzmem, z przestępczością zorganizowaną, ze szpiegostwem i zostaje nam po prostu ta publikacja, która jest albo dla rządu wygodna, albo niewygodna i nie oszukujmy się, że tutaj o to chodzi, o jakiś wpływ na opinię publiczną, a podsumowując, no nie ma niestety, całe szczęście, że nie żyjemy w takim systemie, w którym przynajmniej teoretycznie byśmy byli zobligowani do popierania stanowiska rządu. No, pan Sommer ma jak najbardziej prawo do tego, żeby mieć swoje zdanie odrębne od polityki rządu, a służby specjalne są służbami państwa, a nie są służbami partyjnymi. Nie powinno tak być przynajmniej. Więc w tym momencie ja rekomendowałbym po prostu zwrócenie uwagi na cywilną kontrolę służb i dostosowanie pewnych zapisów prawa, które są nieadekwatne do takich sytuacji wiążących się chociażby z mediami.
So of course, I'm not going to translate everything what Jaromir said, but in general he concluded that OSCE, if it has like a mandate to make a investigation or a report on the issues that are now that we spoke today in Poland regarding the legality of this kind of activity of the Polish government, so this is the main thing that OSCE could maybe do. From our side, we are interested, of course, as Madam said, to forward this problem, because it's not only our problem, Polish problem, but I think all OSCE countries' problem. Of course, we hear more about it in Central Asia mostly, but this is a problem because of some crises now that Christian was saying, also in Europe. So we are open to further this discussion in Warsaw, in Vienna next time on a bigger scale, and to maybe have some reporting from the ground, from our side, from different NGOs from different countries, to see a bigger picture, to check it if there is a systematic problem or it's only a problem of some individuals. Okay, so Christian, please wrap it up. To finish, I hope that you're gonna point out some general problems to discuss today about the recommendation for OSCE. What you would recommend?
Yes, thank you, Michael. I think the central point is that we got in the last years into a development which is in the meantime far away from the constitution of our liberality and open society oriented situation in our countries. So I think the most important criteria, or one of the most important criteria of an open society, is that a lot of different positions, a lot of different opinions, a lot of different agendas are accepted, and not one single issue is an absolute agenda for the total society. The OSCE is based on the Charter of the European Human Rights, and there are a lot of rights at the moment which are infected and which are hurted at the moment. So I think there are a lot of opportunities to discuss about it, to come together and to compare the situations in the different countries. This should be the future, and I think that we should come into a situation where we don't asking for what should be the new normal, but to ask how can we be enabled to re-establish the so-called old normal of our constitutions and of our liberty in the past. Thank you.
Thank you, Christian, and thank you all my speakers, and thank you all for participating in this side event to the OSCE conference on media and security. I hope that we're gonna meet also next time, that we're gonna, like we said, move forward this discussion with other countries, because we see this in Austria and Poland. This is a kind of a real threat, and we must balance this security threat that we have now in the narrative with the basic freedoms, the fundamental freedoms that are in our constitutions, like Christian said, and of course in the European Charter of Human Rights and other international obligations, of course, and OSCE obligations for the states. So thank you all for joining us, and contact us if you like. Pantarey Foundation, we're gonna show the chart. If you like to contact us, please do so further. So thank you all, and have a good evening.